mental crisis all around Australia, and two, the insane crazy weather that is going on at the moment. So we have just driven from Grafton, New South Wales, all the way to Goulburn, New South Wales, via Sydney, and the weather was out of this world. We went to drive through the Pacific Highway, which is the main road from Grafton to Sydney, but we had to go out west because the road was completely flooded over on the Pacific Highway, so we had to go from Grafton to Tenterfield or Glen Innes, and then we went from there down south through Muswellbrook, and then we continued on our way. Anyways, we are just seeing flash flooding. Where we live in Grafton, our house is home place we stay, is under like 2 to 3 foot of water. I have a friend who works with the SES, which is like fire and rescue, but they mainly just work with how would you describe the SES, Mum? Like natural events, fires, floods, stuff like that. So my friend has gone and ordered sandbags and put it all around my shed, because everything I own is in that shed. And they sort of put it all around the shed, and they said, oh, by the way, I checked everything, I locked all the doors to your house and made sure your fridge was still running, sandbagged your shed, and I'm probably not going to be able to go back there because I am flooded out of I live on a really small bit of town out of Grafton, and I can't go there now because I'm flooded out. And his dad lives in the same town as me, in this little outer suburb, and he's now cut off from his dad, and so he's stuck in Grafton, in his home in Grafton, and he can't get to work out of town either. So if we had stayed there, we would have been stuck there. But we are going to head south, hopefully out of the rain. We have nothing better to do, so we might as well do that. So that's weather. That's the weather report.
Keep driving till it
We're just going to keep driving until it starts raining. Let's go to Perth, Mum.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go to Perth.
So there's so many places being totally devastated.
Absolutely.
Flooded.
And most of the places that are being flooded are the low-lying areas, which are...
What we were talking about a week ago, we were not...
Exactly.
Yep.
But I'm not just talking about the whole Nibiru 200 metre thing. I'm talking about them actually destroying all the rental homes, because all of the rental homes are the low-lying areas, and
Yeah, mate.
yeah. Sorry, Mum.
No. Well, I think it ties in with the Nibiru thing, because we were only talking about it last week, about the guy that, what's the lady's name from?
Oh,
She talks very beautifully. She's from
Israeli news.
Israeli news, yes. Where she interviewed that guy that was from the CIB or whatever.
Yes.
What was it called there? In America.
Not FBI.
CIB. Anyway, CIB. But anyway,
Moving right along.
you know, the bastards that can just come and make you disappear. He ran that for many, many years, so he knows a lot of stuff. And he said that this Nibiru, he said it was just bullshit all his life, and then he was the person that looked over all the scientists and all the research and stuff, and he said it's more than true. It's more than true.
Wow.
This planet is becoming really close to us, and that's just mucking up all our
polar lines are shifting, or something.
We haven't slept for about 4 days, so we're both just buggered. We can't.
Our words are like,
talk.
oh, Mum's just been driving and I've been trying to navigate and stuff. We're on the big highway now. It's still raining. This is okay though.
Yeah.
But we're on the big highway, so no more navigating.
So he was saying that, about the floods. We've talked about that a couple of times in your last videos.
Yes, I think so.
And you just think, oh well, anytime we talk to an Australian, they're like, oh, that's so dumb because we've been in drought for 3 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It depends where you are, 3 or 5 years. And they're like, oh, that's so dumb. And then within like 3 or 4 days, I said to Lil, I really feel like we need to get to high ground. So we took a trip, which I think she put in her videos, up to the high country and then back, where it still had never rained. It
hadn't rained.
But here I am saying to her, I think we have to go and look up for another property.
In the mountains.
In the mountains. And so we looked there for above 200 or 300 metres. She's got it she's got all that sorted.
I have a map thing that I do need to put in the comment section.
And it was just like, oh, this sounds stupid, just what some guy said. And within 48 hours, we were ankle deep, and we're just like, oh, this is a bit of a coinky dink, isn't
Imagine
it?
that. Fancy seeing you here. Small world.
Small world. Chuff, chuff, right? Which is something we talk about quite often.
It's just something we joke about. It's like, if anything is a coincidence, like fancy seeing you
There's
here.
nothing such as a coincidence.
No.
It's a planned event.
Yes.
So within a couple of days, we're ankle deep on our property. Our friend is waist deep on his property. Only just got his van.
Our neighbour who lives just down the road.
Literally
But he just
two
lives.
doors away.
He lives only like about
50 metres.
Yeah,
or
50 metres, and the gradient is only like half a metre.
Yeah.
Like, you know, our place is a bit higher and his place is a little bit lower, but the gradient's probably only half a metre.
And he said within about 30 minutes, he came home from work, he was buggered, he went to bed. He's just got like everyone around our place, no one's got a house. It's all just kind of, who can afford 30 grand and just put a bus on it, put a sea container on it. So that's the sort of area we live in.
Yeah.
And so he's just got
Everyone's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's got a sea container, and he said he's put a deck up on top of the sea container. It's pretty cool. And he's got this old bus that he lives in, but it runs and everything.
It's a beautifully kept.
It's a beautiful bus.
He is so OCD, it is so clean.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
So he said he came home from work, he had a quick bird bath, jumped up into his bed, tired as heck, and next minute he heard a bit of a pitter patter, and he thought, I better go down and have a look. And he did, and he was almost waist deep in water, and he only just got his bus out.
Yeah.
And that's his life. His bus is everything he owns.
And he said he came up to us to tell us to evacuate.
Yeah.
And he messaged us after that. So I went back to look at my place, and it had
Sent a
gotten
video.
higher.
Yeah.
If I can find that video, I should post it.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it was literally like, for me, because I'm like 5'3", it would have been up to like my chest.
Yeah.
And this
so
is
it's
not
impossible.
It's a floody place, but like we're talking like
only flood as in like moist, like up to like little squish.
Like maybe
That's
like
what they normally
ankle
call a
deep.
flood. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's flooded out in our toques, and it's like, oh yeah, ankle deep.
Yeah,
Well, we're not talking like
and that's
torrent.
annoying enough, but this is like, you know, carry your bus away. And the worst part is his property was just a piece of bush, so he cut into it to put a driveway and put some gravel in.
Oh yeah.
And then he just came up to show us the day before the pictures of his little garden. There's some floods there. Some pictures of his little garden. He put a frog pond in, and he done all this. And he's a guy, you know. He's like, look, I even put a little frog pond in.
He's like this big butch dude.
That's so cute.
He's this big butch guy. He's like 6'3", and he's a brick shit house. And he's got tattoos all up his arm, and he's a trade man. He's like, I made a frog pond, and we're like, oh, you're so cute.
He's got little baby frogs and everything.
He said, I got a little symphony every night. and then he's like, my frog pond's underwater. We're like, oh, sorry, mate.
Those frogs are in cans, man. Yeah. So
even the frogs left.
Yeah, I hope Big Bob's still there.
I don't know if I've showed you my pet frog.
Many times.
Many times. He's like as big as my palm of my hand, and he comes and when I come home from town, he's just there in my outdoor kitchen just chilling. He's like, but up, and I'm like, put a bit of water on him, and he croaks a bit more. So
yeah. So he's like this guy Glenn, he's like way cool. And poor bugger, he had to evacuate his place, and he's never had to evacuate. He's had his place for many years. And he told us that last day, he said, just get out. So we did. We packed up everything, all our animals and all our precious things in our trailer with it.
Yeah.
We'll be gone for a couple of hours. And then we went up to the Highlands.
We've done this so many times. We've like panicked, gone, this is it, this is the end, this is it. And then we've packed everything up, and an hour later gone, oh, it wasn't the end of the world. All that effort for nothing. And so we're thinking to ourselves, oh, it's just going to be nothing. We're going to be back in a few hours.
Maybe.
And now we're like, oh my gosh, it's really flooded. It's happening.
So we went up to the plains again, where we just been 2 days earlier, thinking, oh, we might look for another place, higher ground, to buy or whatever. And then we went back and we thought, oh, well, there's nothing, no drama. And then all of a sudden, within 2 days, we're back up. The Highlands evacuated from our area.
Yep.
And for probably, what would it be from like from Brisbane, probably more than 1,000. This is what I guess when you see other things that have flooded,
Yeah.
it might be just a small town or something, but this is from,
it's compact.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
localized.
But this is from Queensland right down.
We're
past
talking
Sydney,
from like the Sunshine Coast to
right
Sydney,
down to Victoria.
and even most of
Canberra.
Victoria, Canberra. We're 1,000
We're talking
k's.
1,000 or more miles, and inland.
Miles. Yeah, sorry, miles.
Yeah, probably inland 100 miles, something like that. So that's a very big area to flood.
Just gonna show the funny turbine things.
We think they're bullshit.
I think they're weather modifications somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I just don't see
Gosh, they're
why
ugly.
you would need what's turning them. It doesn't make sense. Like,
Electricity's turning them.
yeah, the electricity's turning them, but how are they creating power?
Oh, isn't that funny? There's a power grid right there. You know?
Ah, imagine that.
That's turning them.
And if you have a look on top of it, you can actually see what looks like a little 5G station.
But
on
if you were
top.
up there, it's probably the size of our car.
Oh yeah.
Like they're like, how big are they? Like they're massive.
They're like the
100
length.
meters or
Yeah,
something.
they're 100. They're like
Oh,
100
they're
meters.
ridiculous.
But if you have a look on top, you might be able to see like a little black blotch,
I
which is
see
probably
that.
the size of our car. But
Yeah.
I think that has something to do with weather modification. But you don't usually get that close.
Absolutely right. No, this is really weird because normally they're right over in the paddocks or something.
But they're freaking huge.
Wow, I've never been this close to one.
But look at the high tensiles, and that makes the high
Yeah.
tensile look like a bloody toothpick.
Yeah,
But my
right.
uncle
And
drives
those
a-
hotel tensiles are huge.
Yeah. My uncle drives a Franna, and he just said they're just enormous, which is like a small crane. But yeah, if you have a look on top, you can
that.
see it looks like a little mini 5G station. Let's have a look. I hope you guys can see because I've got it on just a selfie camera. Trucks. Oh, big trucks.
That is enormous. Those boxes are enormous.
Yeah, you can see it looks like, it for sure looks like something on top of those.
Yeah. They're really huge.
See, I was
aren't they?
right.
Yeah. But someone's going to go, oh, that's where they're storing electricity or something. But
Oh, that's some
Anyway.
sort of transfer station thingy. Anyways,
so the water, that's one thing.
that's water. That was.
You were going to talk about like 1,000 kilometres by 100 kilometres. That's a lot of water.
Well,
If you see it from the air, and a lot of people lost their homes and they've lost all their,
Yeah, absolutely.
their stuff. You know, it's just devastating. Poor little buggers. Yeah.
So that's something that we are really going through. We're not just researching it or something. But we're really living it, you know.
Yeah, that's right. We're really living it, and we're going to have to find higher ground now. Goodness knows what our property's going to look like.
Oh my gosh.
You know, but it's not like, well, because we're like preppers or because we're truthers or something, or aware, awake, RHNX, you know, like we're right up there as far as a bit of knowledge goes.
Yeah.
But then when something like this happens, you think, oh God, we're just babies, you know, we don't know anything.
Oh my gosh, we feel so freaking open, you know, to the elements, to what we don't understand about our world. Our next topic, Mother, can you please remind me?
Well, it started, I guess, a few years ago. I think the first time I'd ever, well, to go right back in your whole life, think about the word homeless or
Yeah.
youth, homeless youth.
Yeah.
It's always on the news, like, you know, we've got some homeless youth. What do you instantly think? You know, like
You instantly think someone like smoking joints, you know, maybe
drug
like
addicts and
pulling and tapping.
yeah.
You think
Their families don't want them anymore. They throw them
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
so
like they're like-
stealing their grog and their jewellery.
that they're like delinquents. You know, you don't
Yeah.
think good things about those sort of people. You think, oh, their families don't want them, the system doesn't want them. They must be like really little shitbags.
Yeah, and
Little
you
gutter
know
punks.
they apply for housing, and
Yeah.
then they get the housing even in a really rough area like Redfern or something.
Yeah.
Like that, and then they just get kicked out, and so they got nowhere to go. So
Yeah.
they go, and sometimes you know they want to live on the streets. This was the thinking, and true because I knew people that were homeless. I myself have been in that position.
Yeah. It's more
and-
like anarchists, like.
Yeah, like fuck the system. You know, I don't want to be part of the system. I don't want to have to work every day just to pay the rent, pay the bills, pay the man. That's
Yes.
the whole thing with. So, like when you see squatters in, say, England or something, they've got all those squatters' rights, and so you see all that sort of, and you think, well, they're homeless. Well, they're squatters. They're not homeless. They're so you sort of educate yourself on that, and you think some of those have got really good jobs.
Yeah.
Some of those are pulling in £120,000 a year, and they're still squatting because they've got this whole attitude
They got the mindset.
Yeah, they've got this sort of squatter's mindset, right? So that's one thing I think about homeless people.
Yes.
Squatters. And then the other one is like the young kids that are just, get stuffed. Mum, I don't want to put my clothes in the clothes basket, so I'm going to live under the bridge because I don't want to be told what to do.
Wow.
So there's another sort of, and that's about all I've thought about because I'm old.
Yeah.
In my whole life about homeless people. And then you get a kick in the face when you see like Chicago, Seattle, what are those other places where they are?
Well, mainly Seattle and also most of California.
Yeah, Skid Row and all the tents there. You go, wow,
Yeah.
You see all these drug addicts and they think, oh, little drug addicts, right?
Yep.
So you're always associating, and we're not sort of just profiling here.
No, not at all.
We're just saying what people think.
This is like an automatic profiling they've put onto us, that you automatically think someone's homeless because they're a drug addict and they had a job.
They've got a bad attitude.
They got a bad attitude, but they're a drug addict. They've lost their job, or they couldn't afford to keep up their habit and pay the rent, and so they're just homeless, and then they just fall into a heap. That's what you just automatically imagine.
Yep, and then they start having shows about interviewing these people, and then the first one I think was Katrina, where there was all those people in the
the dome,
in the stadium, and then you start thinking, wow, this is terrible, and those people, they just didn't have homes after that, so they started living in their cars, and they just didn't even provide homes for them, which I thought, wow, that's really awful.
Yeah,
that's awful. And then we started seeing interviews with people like in Seattle and also in England, and there's not enough resources for those sorts of homeless people. Is there?
Exactly.
And they're just like, well, there's just not enough places for like drug addicts or rehabilitating drug addicts, or people who just left prison. They're another high group. That's
another big deal.
Find a house to live in.
Well, they can't find a job, so they can't afford a house.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what that's the automatic profiling, and through my life, 90% of the people that I meet that are homeless fall into those categories. I've got friends my age, maybe when I was a bit younger, like 15, 16, they're like, oh, I'm just going to couch surf. That's kind of homeless.
Yeah.
Couch surfing, you don't have a fixed address, that's kind of homeless. I guess, look, we travel around everywhere,
People see us as like, like dirty kind of hippies, ferals, traveller, gypsy, that sort of thing, because they go, so where do you actually live? And we go, well, all those stuff's in the back. Where do you live? Well, we've got a place in Tassie. So you live in Tassie? No. Well, we've got a place up in Grafton. So you live in Grafton?
No.
So they don't understand it, so they might profiling us as drug addicts or something like that.
Yeah.
Who cares? So people just like preconceived ideas, what they see on television, etc.
Yes.
But now when we see all these homeless people in Seattle and these other places, and then they start really interviewing them, that these people are really high functioning, and they've got kids, and kids get dressed in the morning, go to school from the car or from their RV.
And some of these people, they've go to really good schools.
Yeah.
And these people have really good jobs. All this gunning.
And yet they can't find a house.
Yep.
They can't find a house to live in. So then it's switched from the underprivileged not being able to find a house to normal, everyday people.
The middle class.
The middle class.
Is now non-existent. You are the 1% or you are a dirtbag. And that doesn't mean that you don't work your guts out. Doesn't mean your kids don't go to a good school. But there is no middle class. There is no, American dream per se. We've still got that in Australia. Of course, everyone just calls it the American dream because it's just that's the classic term for it. But everyone wants to, marry their high school sweetheart, get a good job, buy a house, have a couple of kids, have a skidoo in the back, live not too far from the beach. Like every bloody one wants that. Everyone wants that.
And people are so privileged, like they really want it and they think they deserve it. So that's another thing.
Exactly.
Cheeky bills.
So we're just discovering now that the profiling that we already have a preconceived idea of what homelessness looks like is completely wrong.
Completely wrong.
And maybe it was true 20 or 30 years ago, because housing was like, you know, you could literally like, what's the saying with Rousey's mum?
Kick a
log.
Dead log.
Yeah.
With a hole in it, you know, and just Rousey's come running out everywhere, and that was what housing used to be like.
Yeah, exactly.
You could go to 20 or 30 houses in a day and choose which one you wanted, and you would have the agents ringing you going, oh, hello, Miss McDonald, did you like that house you saw today? Yeah, it was okay. Well, did you need another to look at a different house? Like, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, 30 years ago.
It was a renter's market. It was really a renter's market.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were renting our place in Tassie, but just before we left last year, what did we put on it? We put like $320 was like a week.
A lot, yeah.
And we're like, whoa, you know, we're balling. We're getting $320 a week.
Yeah,
everywhere else is $280.
If it was $280, everywhere else was $280, and our price before that was $280. We put it up to $320.
And we really struggled to find renters. We had to like kidnap these people and lock them in their house and go, okay, you're paying rent now. Like it took us like 2 weeks to find a renter. And you know what?
Now
we looked in the area because we thought, I wonder what rent's worth in the area. Drum roll to the accountant.
Yeah, like $480 to $500.
Like $500.
Yeah,
in
and
a
our
year.
Renters are still paying $320.
And our renters are like, we're like, why aren't our renters moving out?
We've been there 5 bloody years, you know.
Yeah, so last time we upped the price, we upped it to $320, and when they moved in, I think it was $280 5 years ago. And then, you know, 4 years later, it went up $40 a week, and now, in a year, it's gone up $200.
$200 in 12 months.
If you want a unit, it's like $450.
Yeah, because the prices of houses have gone up. So then the interest rates haven't gone up, but the price of the house has gone up. So you don't need the interest rate to go up. You can pay zero interest, but if you're paying $600,000 instead of $400,000 for a house, clearly your payments are going to be bigger.
For sure, absolutely. And another thing is that people just can't afford the houses that people used to be able to get. If you had a normal 9 to 5, you know, your missus stayed home, or maybe she had a part-time job, you used to be able to just buy a house, like, you know, it was no big deal. But now, like, unless you are both freaking lawyers or accountants or doctors, you can't afford. The people that we're renting to, we're saying to them, oh, you know, you guys planning on buying? She's a nurse. The guy works on the oil rigs. He's a FIFO worker, fortnight in, fortnight out, up in Darwin. They cannot afford. They cannot get a loan for a house. I'm like, you guys are like rich.
Yeah, they're
you guys
really
have
rich.
like really good jobs, and you can't get.
And they can't get a housing loan.
They can't get a housing loan.
There's a whole
so that's why there are no everyone instead of buying is renting.
Yeah.
That's why there's heaps of houses for sale, but nowhere for rent.
That aren't buying anymore.
Yeah.
It's just all rent. So that sort of collapses that whole side of things. You know, you've got to have people that are buying, and then renters. You can't just have everyone as renters.
Yeah, exactly. Because who's gonna be the landlord?
Yeah.
You know, you need a landlord.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So that's a really big problem at the moment, and now we're just seeing that is worse and worse, and
it's getting bad.
And now we've been reading just the last few days here that there's small towns where people are evacuating, like us, right? We're evacuating.
Yeah, we had to evacuate.
Yeah, and so they're just evacuated to an evacuation centre, and their house is shit now, and they've lost all their stuff because it got washed away. Well, their entire house.
These people are renters.
Yeah.
These people are renters.
All renters. And then they go back to their house, and they go, well, our house is shit. And then they say to the landlord, hey, landlord, fix our house. And the landlord's like, I don't have the money to fix your house. That's not what I can afford.
Yeah.
Right, because his house is probably shit as well.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been flooded out.
The landlord, because don't forget, 90% of people that are landlords just have like maybe one investment property.
Yeah.
Maybe two if you're really lucky, but a lot of them are just people that have worked their guts out, and they've managed to get themselves.
Like their 401k, they just put it straight into a house, into a property.
Like what Mum did.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a whole thing that we're really watching at the moment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is the whole rental thing, and there's just people in every corner of the world, just like, we are going to be homeless. We are homeless. That's impossible.
There's so many people in Australia, the UK, just like they've had not a lot. Like it's been a landlord's market for a long time. but it's just getting ridiculous. We're talking like people will get a flat, like a they call it a gaff over there, which just means like a kind of like a unit, a studio unit, and they will get them and put like plyboard walls up and literally just rent out the coffin.
Yeah.
This is in England.
Yeah.
And then the people come in and go, oh, it's not safe. We'll just chuck you guys all out in the street
Like
in the middle of winter. The council will come around and say, oh, it's not safe for you guys to live here because it's like they've got like a real big thing where you're not allowed to have, your house is like rated to how many people you're allowed to have.
Really?
So if your house is like a 2-bedroom, then you're allowed to have 4 people, but no more, right?
Right.
But these, like a 2-bedroom unit is housing like 20 people, and they're like, oh no, you can't have this many people in here. There's not enough toilets and blah blah. So we'll just chuck you out on the street where before you had a toilet and a house and a kitchen, but now you're just homeless.
Oh my gosh, how does that make sense? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So conspiratorial.
Yes, let's go to the conspiracy side of things. It's my favourite.
It's just wanting everyone to be out of houses, flooding out areas so people get
and the areas that don't get flooded get burnt.
Don't get exactly burned. Like look at Paradise. I think they said 60 or 80,000 people just disappeared.
Yeah.
And with Australia, they made it drought.
So
huge.
all out west is just drought. All along the Great Dividing Range, I think I explained that the other day how that works.
Yeah.
All that is fires. Through there is fires, and then all along the coast is just pissing down with the rain.
So I guess they want to make you run homeless for a reason. Not sure what that is right now. Of course, you can jump straight to FEMA barges and shark bait, and taking you over to the ghost cities in China. I think that's where it's going to end up. FEMA camps, everything's like a bloody FEMA camp. They're building these new hospitals. I know it's off topic, but they're building these new hospitals in every small town. Like just back there, Goulburn. That's only, how many people would be in Goulburn? Like 2,000 or something?
Bit more, but not a lot. I think maybe like under 10.
Right. Well, I can't tell, I'm just driving through, but under 10,000, and they're building this massive hospital with no windows, just cement, and the big entranceway.
Yep.
And why have they got like 1,000 beds?
They had a perfectly good hospital.
Yeah.
Like a normal size hospital.
Every town we're going through.
And they're not far, and it's not far from Wollongong, which is a massive town where.
And that'd be huge.
And you wouldn't, it's like Wollongong is south of Sydney, but it's the same bloody size as Sydney. So you're 30 minutes from Wollongong. Why do you need an enormous hospital? You literally just import people.
I mean, if every single person in Goulburn got sick at the same time, they'd still have 4 extra beds to every person.
Exactly.
Wow. That sounds fun.
We better cut it loose because it's almost 30 minutes, and I know when I watch a video, I only make it like 10 minutes through the video.
Well, just think, we've put them to sleep nicely.
Yeah, exactly. We've just bored them the shit out. They'd be like, oh, look, I fell asleep, so let's go talking. Okay. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for screen. I'm out.